Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another Classic Comics livecast. Thank you for those who are going to be stopping in to say hello and listen, and also those who are going to be listening on a replay. Thank you for tuning in. So, no one big story really this week. It's just a bunch of different things. Most of this stuff is Disney related. And of course, some of it dates back to last week because, of course, I wasn't here last week. I spent last weekend with my National Guard unit. So let's just go ahead and dive into it here. So let's see. First thing, okay. So we'll start off here. So first thing, there are more Disney layoffs coming. So we'll just kick off with that. So I've got an article here from Deadline. Racing for the bloodbath. Disney layoffs to resume Monday. It was originally described as the big one, or even more pointedly, a straight up bloodbath. Either way, the lion's share of layoffs at Disney are expected to begin Monday. From April 24th to 27th, there will be Mouse House employees in film and TV losing their jobs every single day except Friday, we hear. A rep for Disney declined comment. To say that anxiety is high is an understatement. Just about everyone who works on Buena Vista Street in Burbank is on high alert, wondering whether their number is up. There's a sense of foreboding that the cuts are going to be wide, large scale, and very meaningful, an inside industry source said, noting how low company morale is right now amid persistent rumors that at least one person from each department would have to go. The sweeping layoffs are among the first major moves for Iger since his surprise return as Disney CEO in late November. It sucks, to be honest, a longtime film exec at the company said. Iger coming back got everyone's hopes up for investment in people as well as creativity. Truth is, if you're not operating a ride at the parks, you could be on the chopping block. Maybe the worst part is still not knowing who is being let go, no matter how much time you put in. Our employee even begged a Deadline reporter to find out if their job was safe. Iger confirmed in March that 3 rounds of layoffs would occur as the company looks to reduce its workforce by about 7,000 employees in an effort to reach 5.5 billion in overall cost savings. The initial round came a few days later before the company's annual shareholder meeting, April 3rd, and involved a consolidation of production operations across Disney TV Studios, Hulu, Freeform, and FX, and the shutdown of the studio operations creative acquisitions department. A small business unit that was focused on exploring the metaverse was also axed. Second, much bigger wave of layoffs next week will get Disney close to the 7,000 goal, we hear. Virtually every Disney entertainment entity, TV networks, and studios and film is expected to be affected in a significant way. According to sources, the various division heads were given cost targets. They translate to different percentages of the workforce for each unit, which could amount to 5%, 10%, 15%, and even more in some cases, we hear. Network programming and studio marketing are believed to be among the areas that will take a hit this time. Let me get rid of this. There we go. And there will be a new round of cuts at ABC News, which already underwent layoffs last month, sources said. The remnants of the dismantled Disney media and entertainment distribution are an obvious target, too. And then there is Hulu. The parts of the company focused on streaming are particularly on edge given the mounting intrigue about Disney's plans for Hulu, particularly since it contributed to overall losses in streaming of 1.5 billion in the most recent quarter. The company took full operational control of Hulu in 2019, but Comcast still has a 33% financial stake. In a put call arrangement slated to take effect in early 2024, Disney can buy out Comcast, but Iger has repeatedly said that everything is on the table. The agreement states that the minimum value of Hulu will be 27.5 billion at the time of a transaction. That means Disney would have to would have to commit to shelling out at least 9 billion. At the same time, it's cutting staff and planning to restore its stock dividend after suspending it during COVID. Hulu will definitely be one place to watch with these cutbacks, observes one high level exec at another media company. Since they took control, they have kept it US only and managed it very conservatively, meaning it's either going to get beamed up into Disney Plus or they could just let it go entirely. My money's on the former, but that means they could operate it a lot more efficiently. In one precursor of what could lie ahead, Joe Early has upped this month from his role, or was up this month from his role as president of Hulu to broader oversight of direct to consumer streaming at Disney Entertainment. Departing in that shuffle was Michael Paul, a one time Amazon veteran whose 6 year Disney run followed the company's acquisition of BAM, which Paul ran as CEO when it was owned by Major League Baseball. There was zero room for Michael in the new structure, one former Disney exec said. ESPN, now one of the business units at the company, a new structure implemented under Iger after he retook the controls from Bob Chapek, will also be under the microscope in terms of cutbacks. A major wrinkle, Disney and ESPN face a looming renewal of multi-billion-dollar NBA rights. While there is a consistent chatter of other top professional sports following the model of Major League Soccer's venture with Apple, one exec who negotiates sports rights deals says leagues would prefer maintaining the kind of cash flow they do with more traditional licensing deals. Why do you think MLB sold BAMTech off in the first place? They didn't want to be in the direct to consumer business, the exec says. For Disney, they put their chips into the middle of the table by bringing BAMTech in. In this environment, though, they have to take another hard look at their costs in running all of that infrastructure as they look to keep cash available for rights. That hard look will likely cost veteran employees their jobs next week, with former longtime ESPN anchor Bonnie Bernstein lamenting the pending layoffs on Twitter. I love our industry. It's brought so many amazing things to my life, but my heart aches for my friends at ESPN Disney awaiting the next round of cuts, she wrote. Many have been there for 20, 30 years. It's all they know. The anxiety of what's next for lifers in any line of work, so tough. So, yeah, I mean, we've been knowing that cuts were coming for a while. It hasn't been a big surprise. And I've talked about this in previous live streams. Just a number of things have caught up to them, and they're not profitable. None of these streaming services have been profitable, really. I think Netflix has been, but they're not right now. And Disney Plus has never been profitable. And just throwing all this money into a hole for streaming, and particularly throwing it into lots of woke content, has really come back to bite them. And with the pandemic ending and the PPP money running out, more importantly, they just can't afford to keep operating the way they have, and they've got to cut payroll. Now they mentioned Hulu here. Let me, because I've got another article, I think, on Hulu. Let me find that. And we'll talk about that a little more before I move on to something else. If I can find it here. This may take a second. Let's see. That's not it. No. Okay, here it is. All right. So this is from Variety. Disney CEO Bob Iger on potential Hulu sale. Everything is on the table right now. And I kind of touched on that in the previous article. So, with Bob Iger back in the CEO seat at Disney, will he look to grab full ownership of Hulu from Comcast, or will the company sell its stake as it looks to refocus its streaming portfolio? And if you'll recall, I believe it's Comcast that last year that acquired the CW, or at least a controlling percentage of the CW, and did it literally for nothing, for basically the price of, assume our debts and you can have it. With Let's see now. Iger, not yet 90 days in his reprise as Disney's CEO, was non-committal on the question of Hulu's future when asked in an interview Thursday on CNBC's Squawk on the Street. Disney currently owns 67% of Hulu, and Comcast owns the remaining 33%. Everything is on the table right now, so I'm not going to speculate whether we are a buyer or a seller of Hulu, he said. But I obviously have suggested that I'm concerned about undifferentiated general entertainment, particularly in the competitive landscape that we are operating in, and we are going to look at it very objectively and expansively, whatever that means. Comcast and Disney inked their deal in May 2019, which gave Disney control of Hulu. Comcast has the right to sell its ownership stake to Disney as early as 2024, or as early as January 2024, and conversely, Disney can require Comcast to sell it at that point. Prior to Iger Prior to Iger stepping back at the helm, ex-CEO Bob Chapek had expressed an interest in doing a deal with Comcast to bring Hulu fully into the Mouse House fold sooner rather than later. While Comcast CEO Brian Roberts countered that he'd be interested in buying out Disney's majority share. Iger's comments about Hulu come after Disney beat Wall Street earnings estimates for the December 2022 quarter. Iger announced that Disney is eliminating 7,000 jobs, part of a strategy to reduce costs by 5.5 billion, and announced a reorganization of the company into three core business segments. Disney Entertainment, headed by co-chairs Dana Walden and Alan Bergman, ESPN, led by Jimmy Pitaro, and Disney Parks Experiences and Products, led by Josh D'Amaro. In the period, Hulu gained 800,000 subscribers in the quarter to stand at 48.0 million at the end of 2022. Meanwhile, Disney Plus. Oh, hey, Adega. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're doing well. Just talking about Disney as acquisition of or potential acquisition of Hulu here. So, under the terms of the Disney Comcast deal for Hulu, the guaranteed floor value of Hulu is 27.5 billion, meaning Comcast's stake is worth a minimum of roughly 9.2 billion. As of as of December 31st, 2020, NBC Universal's interest in Hulu was recorded on Disney's financial statements at 8.7 billion, according to Disney's latest 10Q filing with the SEC. Um, Let's see. Now Disney Plus registered its first ever decline in subscribers, shedding 2.4 million, driven by losses at Disney Plus Hotstar, the version of the service available in India and parts of Southeast Asia. Now, amid the uncertainty about Hulu, Disney paid 900 million to Major League Baseball in November 2022 to buy out the league's remaining 15% stake in BAMTech. All told, Disney paid some 3.8 billion to acquire BAMTech, which formed the basis of the group that manages business and operations for Disney's streaming portfolio. Separately, Thursday, billionaire investor Norman Pelt said he was dropping his proxy fight with Disney, in which he was angling to nab a seat on the board. He's actually gone already, I believe, so we won't worry about that. So, yeah, Disney, it may be purchasing Hulu, they may be not. Looks like it's up in the air. Now, let me move on to another. Now, so there's been a lot of developments in the Jonathan Majors story. Now, I did talk about that earlier when it first happened, and I thought at the time this was going to be, kind of much ado about nothing. I mean, he was only getting charged with something because the law required it, and that he'd have to go to a trial, but only because it would basically be just a pro forma sort of trial. It would be obligatory according to the law, but not much would come of it. However, things have gotten a bit more complicated. There have been new accusers who have come forward. And actually, let me start with that. With the other accusers that are now saying he assaulted them as well. Let's see here. Let me bring it. Okay, so this is from Variety. Let Let me bring this up. Okay. Jonathan Majors' issues worsen as more alleged abuse victims cooperate with DA's office. As Jonathan Majors prepares for a May 8th court appearance on domestic violence charges, the PR problems are about to get bigger. Sources familiar with the matter tell Variety that multiple alleged abuse victims of Majors have come forward following his March arrest and are cooperating with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The prospect of more women waiting in the wings would mark a dramatic turn in the case and comes on the heels of Major's publicists and management firm cutting ties with the embattled actor earlier this week. The DA declined comment. Jonathan Majors is innocent and has not abused anyone. We have provided irrefutable evidence to the district attorney that the charges are false. We are confident that he will be fully exonerated, said Majors attorney Priya Chowdhury in a statement. The Creed, the Creed 3 star was arrested on March 25th in the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan on charges of strangulation, assault, and harassment. At the time, an NYPD spokesperson said in a statement that a 30-year-old woman told police she had been assaulted by Majors, 33, and that she sustained minor injuries to her head and neck and removed to an area hospital in stable condition. But Chowdhury mounted an immediate and aggressive response, insisting that the actor is provably the victim of an altercation with a woman he knows, and suggested the woman was having an emotional crisis, i.e., bitches be crazy. A source familiar with the chronology of events said the attorney released the statement while he was still behind bars. Chowdhury's husband, Andrew Bork, is serving as Major's crisis publicist and doubled down on the narrative that Majors was the victim when he released a series of text messages on March 30th that were intended to be exonerating. In the text exchange, which has not been independently verified, the woman wrote to Majors, quote, I told them it was my fault for trying to grab your phone, unquote, and stressed that she told police, quote, this was not an attack, unquote. The woman allegedly wrote, quote, please let me know you're okay. When you get this, they assured me that you won't be charged. They said they had to arrest you as protocol when they saw the injuries on me and they knew we had a fight. I'm so sorry. I'm so angry that they did, and I'm sorry you're in this position. We'll make sure that nothing happens about this. I love you, unquote. A few hours later, the woman allegedly wrote, I know you have the best team and there's nothing to worry about. I just want you to know that I'm doing all I can on my end. I also said to tell the judge to know that the origin of the 911 call was due to me collapsing and passing out, and your worry as my partner due to our communication prior. Unquote. But for many who were in business with Majors, the text messages had the opposite effect and raised more questions than they answered, namely why the woman had lost consciousness. Yeah, that is a good question. It read like a bad Lifetime movie. They basically look like the text messages of a textbook abused woman, says one person who is working with Majors on an upcoming project. In recent months, Majors had become one of Hollywood's most promising stars, with a series of high profile and lucrative roles on the horizon. Now, all eyes are on his future with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where he's poised to play the titular Kang in Avengers the Kang Dynasty. Majors is still attached to star in that film, which is slated to be released on May 2nd, 2025, and he is poised for a $20 million payday, including back end compensation. Whoa. He's also signed to star in Avengers Secret Wars, which is slated to debut in 2026. Disney is monitoring the fast moving situation and has time to move deliberately. Yeah, I bet they're monitoring it. The mega budget tentpole Avengers the Kang Dynasty is scheduled to begin production in the spring of next year. Disney is already deep in business with Majors, given that his specialty label Searchlight, or its specialty label Searchlight, acquired the actor's critically lauded drama magazine Dreams, in which he plays a troubled bodybuilder at the Sundance Film Festival, and was prepared to mount a robust Best Actor Awards campaign later this year when it releases the film on December 8th. Majors already shot the second season of the Disney Plus series Loki, which is expected to launch on the streaming platform in mid 2023. Disney has the added wrinkle in that the alleged victim in the Manhattan incident also worked on this year's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, a film in which Majors was third billed as Kang the Conqueror. Huh, I didn't know that. Huh. I wonder who she played in the movie, because I don't know. A Disney spokesperson declined comment. Separately, Majors is stepping down from the board of the Gotham Film and Media Institute and his work with the Sidney Poitier Initiative, which was created to support emerging filmmakers. On Wednesday afternoon, Executive Director Jeffrey Sharp sent a note to the Gotham board alerting them of the move. The industry was jolted by news that Major's publicist, the lead company, I don't know how to say it, LEDE, LED lead, uh, company and Management 360 had dropped their star client well before his first court appearance next month. As of now, WME is still representing Majors. In 2018, the agency created a so called Client Advisory Committee, which makes a recommendation on whether or not to drop a client accused of impropriety. The committee of some 20 staffers, split evenly along gender lines and from a cross section of divisions, evaluates a client's viability amid accusations and considers such factors as if the client had been charged criminally or is facing a civil lawsuit. WME has previously dropped such clients as Brett Ratner, Brian Singer, and Armie Hammer. The committee has not met yet regarding Majors based on the limited information that is still available. Still, in the wake of the actor's March 26 arraignment on a complaint involving misdemeanor charges for assault and a- aggravated harassment, additional red flags began to emerge. Broadway actor Tim Nicolai, who appeared opposite Rachel Weisz in the public theater production of Plenty, tweeted that day, quote, "I'm already seeing a bunch of why didn't you do anything? Folks, people have tried. Ultimately, needed a victim to come forward. It's both simultaneously awful to know what he is still doing and also a relief that he may never get to do it again. A bunch of us are close with people, and sometimes multiple people he has directly harmed. I don't know if they will speak on it. It is completely their decision." Yeah, I remember that. When this first happened, the guy was on Twitter not long after, pretty much just saying he's done this stuff before. Uh, hmm. Interesting. When Variety reached out to Nikolai, he responded, quote, "I stand by what I wrote and I support his victims I know of and however they choose to move forward," unquote. Nikolai says no one from Major's camp reached out to him in the aftermath of his tweets. A judge ordered Majors released on his own recognizance on March 25th with a limited order of protection. Over the ensuing weeks, the actor, a Yale School of Drama alum whose recent credits include Devotion, Defy Bloods, and an Emmy nominated role in HBO's Lovecraft Country, has been dropped from a number of jobs, including Protagonist Pictures' The Man in My Basement. Major League Baseball's Texas Rangers have cut Majors from their 2023 season ad campaign that was scheduled to launch on Friday. And fashion house Valentino and Majors have also mutually agreed that the actor will no longer attend this year's Met Gala. And I believe also Majors, he did a some kind of ad for the Army, like some kind of recruitment ad campaign for them. And apparently that's been yanked as well. In addition to his role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the actor also is poised to play NBA bad boy Dennis Rodman in the Lionsgate film 48 Hours in Vegas. Huh. With that project, the studio is watching developments closely before making a decision about whether or not to proceed with Majors. Other projects that hang in the balance include Spike Lee's The Understudy for Amazon. A source at the studio says Majors is still attached to star and produce alongside Will Smith, but the project hasn't moved forward since it was announced in March. "I think the truth is everyone is waiting to see what Marvel will do," says an industry insider familiar with the situation. It doesn't mean everyone will do the same thing, but that's what people are looking to. Adega says, "Such a fast fall, and yet the flash continues." Yeah, like I say, I thought this was gonna kind of be it would not amount to that much, and boy, it seems like I may have been very wrong. When his own representation, and management, when they started dropping him, that's not a good sign. Um, and yeah, Flash, what do you say about frickin' what's his face? I don't remember his damn name now. But yeah, that guy's a nut. That guy's a basket case. He's mentally unstable, but he just gets one chance after another after another. I think it just shows in Hollywood, if you're of the right ilk, of a certain crowd, then you get, well, the usual rules don't apply to you. Okay, so now I mentioned he's been dropped by his management. So let's talk about that right quick because I got an article in the Hollywood Reporter that talks about that. Okay, Jonathan Majors dropped by Entertainment 360 amid assault allegation. The Creed 3 and Ant-Man star and Wasp Quantumania actor is still without management after his arrest in New York last month. Jonathan Majors is no longer repped by management firm Entertainment 360, with the move coming as the actor faces criminal charges in New York, sources confirmed to The Hollywood Reporter. The public relations firm, the lead company, also stepped aside last month and is no longer repping him, sources tell THR. Rats fleeing the sinking ship, maybe. Majors was arrested on suspicion of strangulation, assault, and harassment in New York on March 26. I've already talked about that. I won't rehash all that. Majors, through an attorney, has denied any wrongdoing. Jonathan Majors is completely innocent. Okay, I've already covered that, what his lawyer said. She said he's innocent. All charges will be dropped. Those charges have not gone away, however. His next court appearance is scheduled for May 8th. And then they just kind of rehash his work with Disney and what he's got coming up. So, I mean, it's really nothing new there. So we'll go ahead and move on. Let's see. Okay, now, so the last one I did was it the last. I think actually no, it's not the last. I think it was not the last one. That the last live stream I did, I was talking about Disney Celebration, but I think before that one, I talked about Victoria Alonso's dismissal from Disney, and now there's been some developments there. Speaking of swift falls, so Victoria Alonso and Disney reached settlement over former Marvel executives' firing. Alonso was let go from Marvel last month, with sources stating it was over her working on the nominated feature Argentina 1985 outside of the company. Tori Alonso and Disney have reached a settlement over the Marvel Studios exec firing last month, the Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. Alonso departed Marvel on March 17th with no explanation given publicly. Those sources later told THR she was fired for her outside work producing the Oscar nominated film Argentina 1985 for Amazon after being warned not to pursue outside work. By producing the film, she breached her contract multiple times, sources said at that time. The executive had an enviable run at the studio, which she joined in 2006 as chief of visual effects and post production. She was there at the dawn of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a co producer on 2008's Iron Man and helped the MCU become the highest grossing film franchise in history. She served as co producer on Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America First Avenger. Alonso was ripped. Alonso was upped to executive producer on the Avengers 2012, which took Marvel to the stratosphere with a $1.5 billion gross and proving its risky move of setting up a shared universe could pay off. Alonso continued to serve as executive producer on subsequent Marvel films and also worked on its Disney Plus shows. She was in 2021, she was nominated or promoted to president, physical and post-production, visual effects, and animation production. Her exit roiled Marvel, normally known for its squeaky clean public image. Alonso's attorney, Patty Glazer, suggested the firing was connected to Alonso being an outspoken proponent of LGBTQ rights, in particular during Disney's dispute with Florida over its Don't Say Gay bill. See, that was kind of my speculation, that it was kind of went back to that. Sources also told THR Alonso and Marvel clashed over censoring gay pride imagery in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania for release in Kuwait. Yeah, I reported on that briefly. So she's going to get a payout, and that's so often the case. Okay, so Adega says my first thought was that she had blackmail material, but then I thought it just might be Disney trying to avoid an anti-woman Latina gay label. Yeah, I think it's that. I mean, could she have something on somebody? I don't know. Maybe Ezra Miller does. But I think it's, or maybe Kathleen Kennedy, she might. But I think it's mainly just the whole thing of Firing a gay Latina woman in Hollywood is a bad look. To the whole left, it's a bad look. And I think it's just that that's why they were maybe reluctant to do it. Okay, so I've got some other Disney related stuff here. I don't know if there's any one thing in particular we need to tackle. I'll just go ahead and take them one at a time. Okay, so as you may have heard, Adam Driver is apparently his name is coming up a lot as a potential casting for Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four. Excuse me a moment. Okay. A new report, Fantastic Four, Adam Driver reportedly in final talks to join this MCU. This is from CBR. A new report indicates the Star Wars star Adam Driver is in final talks to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe in its upcoming Fantastic Four film. A new report claimed that Adam Driver is in final talks to star in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Fantastic Four reboot. According to reputable scooper Daniel Richtman, Driver is currently finalizing a deal with Marvel Studios to play the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards. Driver's name has floated around the project for months, at different times rumored to play a major role in Fantastic Four as early as October 2022, though the reports did not indicate which character he might portray. Fans also expressed interest in seeing the Star Wars actor take on the role of famed Marvel villain Doctor Doom. Him playing Doctor Doom? I don't know about that. All right. In January, sources indicated that Driver was Marvel's top casting choice to play Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four reboot. Prior to this, the reports only indicated that Driver had met with Marvel Studios to discuss joining the cast of the film, with fans speculating he would play Doctor Doom due to his previous villainous roles, most notably in the third Star Wars trilogy as Kylo Ren. Although nothing has been confirmed, fans have speculated that Doctor Doom will appear in the film as its primary villain and become one of the multiverse saga's primary antagonists along with Kang. Another report shortly after claimed that Driver was not a frontrunner for Fantastic Four Reed Richards, with Dev Patel now Marvel's preference for the leader of its first family. This stemmed from Marvel's intent on diverse casting for the film, with the studio also considering Diego Luna at one point for Reed Richards. Diego Luna, he's the guy that plays Andor, right? In the Star Wars. Apart from these rumors, the rest of that leak pertaining to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania's plot and details about an upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer turned out to be entirely accurate. Previously, John Krasinski played Reed Richards in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but he has since indicated that it was always intended to be a one-off after fans called for his casting for several years. Yeah, I think he'd be a better choice than Adam Driver, I think, but oh, why are you kidding? What is this? Okay, how do you get rid of this? Okay, well, screw it. I can't get rid of this thing, so I'll just drop this. So, I think as far as Adam Driver being a potential casting for Reed, I mean, you could do worse. He wouldn't be my first choice, but I think he could probably be solid in the part. He's actually, I think, a pretty good actor. And I think he can probably pull it off fine. Honestly, I'm kind of vaguely surprised they're even getting a white guy to play the role. That's probably the biggest surprise. And as I say, I mean, he's not my first choice, but you could certainly do a lot worse. I do think he's a bit taller. I don't see Reed as a big guy, but Krasinski's tall as well. So I don't know. I think it could probably work. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm just dreading what the other castings are going to be because I just don't trust Disney with much of anything anymore. All right. And speaking of trusting Disney with Marvel characters, so this next article, this is from IGN. Disney Plus finally gets some Spider-Man and Venom movies. The long wait for live action Spider-Man and Venom on Disney Plus will soon be over. Disney has announced that five Spider-Man movies, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, and Andrew Garfield's The Amazing Spider-Man and Tom Holland's Spider-Man Homecoming are all coming to Disney Plus, alongside with 2018's Venom. All the previously mentioned Spider-Man films will be available to Disney Plus subscribers on April 21st, except Spider-Man Homecoming, as it will be added just a bit later on May 12th. Tom Holland's first solo Spider-Man movie will be joined by Tom Hardy's first volume on May 12th as well. While this is undoubtedly great news, there are still a few films missing from the live action Spider Man and Venom library, thanks to Sony Pictures still owning the rights to Spider Man movies, namely Spider Man Far From Home, Spider Man No Way Home, Venom Let There Be Carnage, and the Spider Man spin off Morbius. We already knew Spider-Man movies would be joining Disney Plus after Disney and Sony reached a new licensing agreement back in 2021, and this news just makes that deal the better for fans. For those unfamiliar, the deal reportedly began with Sony's 2022 film slate, but things clearly happened behind the scenes to make these movies available despite that. This is a great time for Spider-Man fans, as alongside these new movies on Disney Plus, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is set to swing into theaters on June 2nd, 2023, and the Spidey spinoff Craven the Hunter has a theatrical date of October 23rd. That thing is gonna bomb so bad. Later in 2023, and quite possibly in September, if Venom voice actor Tony Todd is to be believed, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 will be released on PlayStation 5. Yeah, that Craven the Hunter movie, I don't know. It just speaks to how desperate that Sony is to try and milk Spider-Man and the Spider-Man franchise for everything it can get. There are some characters, I think, in the Spider-Man mythos besides Spider-Man that you could turn into solo characters, but not Craven. And there supposedly he's gonna be a vegetarian. That's what I heard. I don't know. He'll probably be gay too. All right, what else? Okay, and of course, one of the reasons I think that Craven will bomb is because I think superhero fatigue is setting in, and it is a real issue. And this next article actually speaks to that. This is from the Direct. Marvel boss Kevin Feige responds to superhero fatigue concerns. While speaking on a podcast, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige addressed the idea of superhero fatigue among moviegoers. To say superhero media is popular would be an understatement. For those looking to get their fill of heroes, there's plenty of opportunity. After all, 2022 alone saw over a dozen live action superhero stories hit both big screens and television worldwide, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Actually, it does. I mean, Disney's already announced that they're delaying stuff. All right, Marvel Studios has dozens of announced and rumored projects in development, and an end is nowhere in sight. Then there's James Gunn and Peter Safran's upcoming DCU slate, which will undoubtedly spawn countless projects under its own banner. This has led many to believe superhero fatigue will only worsen. In fact, a recent study conducted by Fandom revealed that over one third of Marvel fans are getting fatigued with the MCU. Yeah, I did this. I covered that Fandom article in one of my live streams. When was this? I think this was back in might have been December or January. Now, while guesting on the Movie Business podcast, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige talked about how the Hollywood giant navigates creating the MCU's various phases and how he feels regarding superhero fatigue. When asked how Marvel Studios decides on what their phases will be, Feige was quick to point out the 80 plus years of Marvel comic history as their guide. Well, I mean, you ignore most of it, but whatever. Each of our sagas are broken into phases, and we now find ourselves on the precipice of phase two of the multiverse saga. And there are two ways to do it. One, we look at an overarching narrative, always using the comics and the 80 plus years of comic history as our guide on what general long term story we want to do. But it really comes down to each individual film or series and what type of genre we want to do. As for the question of superhero fatigue, it's something that, quote, people were asking since his second year at Marvel, unquote. I've been at Marvel Studios for 22 years now, over 22 years, and most of us here at Marvel Studios have been around a decade or longer together. And from probably my second year at Marvel, people were asking, well, how long is this going to last? Is this fad of comic book movies going to end? And I didn't really understand the question because to me it was akin to saying after Gone with the Wind, well, how many more movies can be made off of novels? Do you think the audience will sour on movies being adapted from books? That's kind of a facetious comparison. Feige continued his comparison to adapting books, emphasizing that there are, quote, 80 years of the most interesting, emotional, groundbreaking stories that have been told in the Marvel Comics for their company to explore and bring to life and to distort and rewrite. And don't get me started. Well, you would never ask that because there is an inherent understanding amongst people that a book can be anything. A novel can have any type of story whatsoever, so it all depends on what story you're translating. Uh, Comic book readers don't understand it's the same thing in comics. Wait, what? Non com Okay, this isn't written well. This is a typo or something. There's 80 years of the most interesting, emotional, groundbreaking stories that have been told. It is our privilege to be able to take what we have and adapt them. He went on to point out, but another way to do that is adapting them into different genres and what types of movies we want to make. And I, from sitting at USC, probably semester two before your screenwriting class, and sitting in Cinema 101 and being exposed to so many different types of films that I said, I want to make all of these. I don't want to just make one kind of movie. I want to make all kinds of movies. And I found that if we tell the story right and we adapt them in a way that the audience still, knock on wood, so far is following us along, 22 plus years later, with then we can tell any type of movies that share two things: the Marvel Studios logo above the title and a seed of an idea from our own publishing history. One thing that makes the superhero genre so unique is how the stories can be set within any other type of narrative milieu the creatives working the magic want. They can be horror, comedy, political thriller, big blockbuster spectacle. It's all possible. With experiences of Captain Marvel, the Winter Soldier, Werewolf by Night, Ant-Man, and Avengers Endgame, all being vastly different films, despite all being focused on superheroes. That is likely a key reason why these types of movies and shows are still going strong to this day. Seeing as the genre has survived post Endgame and can continue to thrive, even despite some rocky reception here and there, is a testament to these stories and characters being brought to life. Although at this point, it's tough to see what exactly could bring them to an end, if anything. Yeah, I mean, I think they're right in that the superhero genre is there's a lot of flexibility within it. I mean, it's not as superhero stories are really a new thing. I mean, some of our earliest stories, Greek mythology, Norse mythology, those are all basically superhero stories when you get right down to it. These beings with incredible powers that normal humans don't have. Even Gilgamesh, which is the oldest printed, or oldest text in the world, is essentially a superhero story. So, what they say is right. I mean, you can have a horror, you can even have a western or detective, noir kind of story. The thing is with Marvel is that there's a lot of tropes that they just go to over and over again. Adega says, but it's not thriving. Yeah, I mean they're struggling, and I think part of that reason again is they're they're that we all know what the Marvel formula is now, right? We all know what the Marvel tropes are. There's the goofy humor, which isn't really that funny. There's a over reliance on CGI for storytelling and just to keep the audience interested. And while the stories, I won't say they're all the same, but there's obviously a formula that falls into place. And I do think they need to get away from that some if these sorts of films are going to continue to be successful for them. But if they don't, that's fine with me. I have no problem with them having more failures. I'm quite happy with it. Okay, and speaking of potential failures, so let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So this is from Cosmic Book News. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 box office tracking for potential massive flop. James Gunn's final Marvel movie is projected to open lower than Volume 2 and follows Quantum Mania bombing big time. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 box office happens to be tracking low. Potentially a massive flop for the next Marvel movie is part of Kevin Feige's Phase 5, which is already off to a rocky start following Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania's big bust. According to early estimates, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is tracking for a $130 million opening, which is less than Guardians of the Galaxy 2's $146.5 million back in 2027. The first movie released in 2024 opened to 94 million. And really, when you consider inflation and that tickets have gone up, if they're selling that much less in terms of dollars, the number of ticket sales is down even more. Additional estimates also offer the flick could open anywhere between 120 million and 155 million. So we'll have to see how things play out. However, according to early projections, things could be worse. The early estimates are said to in part come from initial pre-sales where Box Office Pro reports the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 pre-sale numbers are actually lower than every Marvel movie released post Avengers Endgame except for Black Widow and Shang-Chi. If that's true, that would surprise me. Now that's surprising as that means Guardians of the Galaxy 3 pre-sale numbers are lower than Eternals, which opened to only 71 million and lower than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which opened to 106 million. Those numbers could be a huge sale disaster for Kevin Feige, James Gunn, and for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The site also adds that pre release marketing is not generating the kind of social media imprint volume as any of 2023's MCU releases, again, which is something pretty surprising and includes Quantum Mania, which bombed and misfired with fans. Deadline does happen to add its own box office report. Distribution sources specify that the campaign for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 hasn't really fired up to its full potential yet, hence, there's nothing to worry about. Well, I don't know. I mean, we're only, what, 2, 3 weeks away? Bear in mind that Deadline does love to spin BS for the film industry, so keep that in mind. But even I am having a hard time believing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will open anywhere close to Eternals and Quantum Mania. But let's take a look at why it could bomb at the box office. So, if the early estimates hold true and Guardians of the Galaxy 3 bombs, what's the reason? Reasons I foresee could be adding to the possibility of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 include the second movie isn't as well liked as the first movie. The first flick has a 92% Rotten Tomato score for both critics and the fans, while the sequel is at 85 and 87% respectively. Over at IMDb, it's more of the same, with the first movie at an 8.0 and the second at a 7.6. James Gunn could be a problem, as audiences might not have forgotten that Gunn was fired from Disney and Marvel over raunchy tweets. So if the conservative family crowd hasn't forgiven Gunn, that could be a huge loss. I I doubt anyone cares about that. That was years ago. I don't think that's really a reason. James Gunn moving to DC could also be an issue for fans, especially Feige's zombie MCU fans. That I can believe. I think that might be part of it. So some of them might bail on Guardians of the Galaxy 3 just to spite Gunn. Yeah, I think that could actually be part of it. That might actually be part of it. Another goofy Marvel movie might actually be a factor, as it seems audiences are done to death with the goofy ass MCU. Okay, I don't know who this writer is, but I like him. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? By Matt McGloin. Okay. Well, I like the cut of your jib there, McGloin. I've said it before. Kevin Feige has gone too far with the MCU too goofy with the MCU as of late. Ironically, is Guardians to blame? It's no doubt Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has been a big hit. So we see that Feige went the goofy ass route for Thor Ragnarok, and even more so in Thor Love and Thunder, which is a big blunder with fans. Then, of course, there's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantum Mania. Yeah, I think this might be part of it. A big part of it. When the first Guardians of the Galaxy came out, it was really a breath of fresh air from the other Marvel films, which had, they had some laughs here and there, some humor, particularly, Iron Man, Tony Stark was always firing off little quips. But generally, they took things pretty seriously. But Guardians of the Galaxy 3 really upped the humor and the comedy and took a not too serious approach with it. And it worked in part because one, because it was fresh and new, a new approach, and second, because it was using really, let's face it, lower tier characters. I mean, Star Lord and Gamora and Drax, Rocket Raccoon, characters like that. Those weren't even like D list. They were like Z-list characters nobody cared about. So you can do more with them. You have more flexibility with characters like that when you start trying to do it with Thor or with the Avengers, it doesn't work so well. That's one of the reasons why I'm really concerned about James Gunn heading up the DCU and him writing Superman. All right, so Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania kicked off Phase 5 and introduced the MCU fans to the next Thanos level villain with Jonathan Majors. That's another issue right there as Kang the Conqueror, but a majority of the MCU fans rejected the flick as the script is terrible, the overall story is terrible, the CGI is terrible, looking at you, Modoc, and again, it's just too damn goofy. I actually think it was a big mistake for Feige to go in the direction they did with Quantumania because it's basically the same as Guardians of the Galaxy, or at least comes off that way. Actually, to me, it came off as more of a takeoff on Tron Legacy, to be honestly. It seemed like almost like a quasi rewrite of Tron Legacy. What about the Disney Plus shows? A turnoff? Groot was really bad. I don't know. I never saw that. And the holiday special was nothing to write home about. So maybe fans are less enthusiastic for Volume 3. I don't know. I never saw those things, so I can't speak to that. While I have my issues with James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxy, again, it's no doubt the movies have been a success and are entertaining. But Feige making everything about the MCU just as goofy, I think, has taken away the Guardians being special. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. Quantumania is goofy, bright, and vibrant with a large cast and has a black actor as the villain, and it's ditto for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The movies basically look identical. Well, there's some definite similarities. Bonus Guardians has going for it is that it does have James Gunn involved, who does look at these characters like family, so we have to hope he's taking care of them and not throwing them under the bus as he moves to DC. Gunn did just echo my own thoughts about the perceived superhero fatigue, where he basically says that it's not superhero fatigue fans have, it's fatigue of garbage. The Marvel movies have been terrible as of late because of the choices made by those involved, not just because they are movies with superheroes. Yeah, it's kind of hilarious how he basically said people aren't tired of superhero movies, they're tired of crap superhero movies. Yeah, when most of the movies being put out, how many movies a year is Disney putting out? Again, I'll be surprised if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is a box office bust, but if that is the case, expect heads to further roll at Marvel. Up next is The Marvels, which looks even worse and comes off as another goofy MCU movie, so it could very well be RIP MCU, which already has one foot in the grave. So I think, I don't think there's any way that Guardians is going to flop. Actually, I would be stunned if that happened. And if that does happen, if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 flops, the MCU and Marvel Studios and Disney are in a lot more trouble than I even thought they were in. Because I figure there's no way this is going to flop. It may disappoint. It may not make as much as the previous film, as the second film, and it may disappoint slightly. I can see that happening. But if this movie actually is a flop, wow, that would be something. And that would be the most glaring signal yet that people are getting tired of the MCU. Okay. Now I've talked a lot. Is there any other MCU stuff? I'm getting close to an hour here. Let's see. How about this? Okay, so let me talk about this right quick. So this is I'm going to move away from the MCU here and talk about Marvel Comics. So some of you may have heard or may not that uh, Peter Parker and Mary Jane in the comics, they're going to split up. And Screen Rant has a story on this. Spider-Man fans divided over controversial Mary Jane romance change. Marvel is teasing the breakup of Spider-Man and Mary Jane Watson, which is dividing the fans before the new series even comes out. And warning, spoilers for Amazing Spider-Man #2. So Marvel Comics is teasing another controversial breakup between Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson, and Spider-Man fans aren't happy about it. In a new solicit for The Amazing Spider-Man #1 by Marvel Comics, the issue teases that the best couple in comics is done, with John Romita Jr.'s art showing both characters looking sad in the rain. The potential storyline has drawn immediate criticism from fans and readers who are tired of the iconic couple splitting up over and over again. Mary Jane Watson has been a fixture in Spider Man's adventures since debuting in The Amazing Spider Man number 42. Following the death of Gwen Stacy, Watson would become Peter Parker's primary love interest, leading to one of the most popular iconic couples in comics. However, Marvel Comics had split the couple up on a handful of occasions, with none of the breakups causing more controversy when Spider Man and MG had to deal with Mephisto to save Aunt May, which caused their marriage to never exist. Yeah, I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah, I'd forgot that even happened. Spider Man and Mary Jane would eventually reconcile and were both together at the end of Nick Spencer's recently completed run on the hero. Now, Marvel is teasing another breakup of the couple, and some readers aren't happy. Marvel Comics released a new cover for the upcoming relaunch of The Amazing Spider Man by Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. The solicited information and cover art caused immediate controversy as it teases another breakup of Peter and Mary Jane. The Romita cover art features a tearful MJ walking away with a concerned looking Peter Parker watching her. The solicit teases readers aren't going to believe what is happening with the question, is the best couple in comics done? Naturally, the controversy caused some immediate feedback from readers. Check out the full solicit by Marvel Comics below. Okay, so here's the cover, which I gotta say, this is not John Romita Jr.'s best work. I get the impression he's not really making a whole lot of effort here. Okay, on comic book Reddit, several users commented frustration about the preview. Comments on the potential controversy range from people pointing out Marvel could be breaking up Spider-Man and Mary Jane for the 7,335th time, and that if Marvel Comics is breaking them up again, they can go F themselves. The responses on Twitter were equally concerning, with many facepalm gifs and questions about what Marvel was doing. Now, it's important to note that solicits and teases for issues can be intentionally misleading. It's entirely possible Marvel Comics is teasing the breakup to draw in readers and to cause discussion. However, for longtime Spider-Man fans, another breakup controversy has to feel a bit of the same old, same old. And readers will just have to wait to see the issue. Okay, so now I did see some artwork, some comic pages on Twitter, and that seem to confirm this is going to happen. And as I understand it, and I don't pretend to have a fully understanding of it, but there's another article here on it. I think maybe that'll give more information on the actual how the actual breakup takes place. Okay, so Spider-Man and MJ break up over their version of the blip. Official theory. Okay, so this is just a theory. Mary Jane spent years trapped in a demonic dimension with another man while only months passed for Spider Man, which explains why she has kids now. Oh boy. While Marvel Comics still has to show the exact moment Spider Man and Mary Jane's last breakup, the exact moment of Spider Man and Mary Jane's last breakup, readers have enough clues and context to put the pieces together. In a cruel twist of fate, Peter and MJ were torn apart by their version of the MCU's famous blip. Let's see. So the current Amazing Spider-Man series began with a small but significant time skip, during which Peter Parker's life was once again ruined. The previous ongoing series, also called The Amazing Spider-Man, ended on a positive note, with Peter back to full health after recovering from terrible injuries suffered in battle and his relationship with Mary Jane on the right track. However, fast forward 6 months and Peter's life is in a shambles. After a mysterious incident caused a huge explosion in Pennsylvania, Spider Man is jobless, depressed, shunned by his friends and superhero colleagues, and more importantly, Mary Jane not only has broken up with him, but is currently married with kids. Yeah, okay, is this. Okay, no, that's not what I saw. This is different stuff. So, what happened 6 months ago and how Mary Jane could have grown up kids in such a short time have been a mystery for Spider Man fans until now. However, Amazing Spider Man number 22 by Zeb Wells, John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, and Marcio Meniz finally started to shed some light on these events. A little known villain called Benjamin Rabin sends Spider Man and Mary Jane into an alternate dimension overrun by demons and ruled by the Mayan god Wayep, whose previous attempt to manifest on Earth was thwarted by Spider Man. In this dimension, the couple has to fight for survival for days until they meet Paul, a researcher who is also trapped there by Raven. Peter is able to build a device that will send one person back home, but despite his intention to use it on MJ, she uses it on him instead to save his life from Wayup's rampage. The issue ends with Peter falling from the sky in Pennsylvania along with the remains of Wayup's body, which explodes, causing the mysterious incident seen at the start of the series. Clearly, Peter will find a way to rebuild the device and get MJ and Paul back from Wayup's dimension, but considering that in the present the two are married with kids, it's easy to understand what happened. Time flows differently between dimensions, so in the days or weeks that it will take Peter to rebuild the device, years will pass for Paul and Mary Jane. Alone in a hostile world with no certainty of ever returning home, the two will fall in love and have kids, so that when they come back, Mary Jane will be forced to break up with Peter. While the truth will only be revealed in the upcoming issue number 23, this theory is the most plausible. The experience is similar to what happened in the MCU to the people that came back after the blip to find out their loved ones had gone on without them. Considering that Mary Jane essentially sacrificed herself to save Peter's life, the story is a lot more tragic than it initially looked. Despite that, many fans will surely be unhappy that Marvel decided to ruin Spider and Mary Jane's life yet again, and to explain the reasons only after 22 issues. Yeah, so that's it seems like that's the deal. Peter was sent back and Mary Jane was trapped in this dimension and she wound up basically, she and this other guy wound up having a relationship, falling in love, blah blah blah. Now I'm not reading Spider-Man. I'm not reading much Marvel comics at all. I'm reading Avengers War on Time, or War Across Time, which is a mini series by Paul Levitz and Alan Davis, and it's quite good. I'm enjoying it. I recommend that. Other than that, I don't recommend anything from Marvel right now. So I'm not reading Marvel comics, but I the thing here's the thing with Spider-Man is that I honestly never really thought that he should have married Mary Jane in the first place because part of Spider-Man for a long time, and it's been emphasized or de-emphasized over the years in different ways, but certainly in his early years, his first say decade, 15 years or so, something like that, Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, he was kind of like a lovable loser, right? He was kind of like the Charlie Brown of comics. Nothing ever went right for him. He never got any respect. He was always broke, always trying to pay his rent, and stuff like that. And of course, a part of the reason he had these problems is because his dedication to being Spider-Man always got in the way. And of course, part of that was that he had kind of a crummy love life. He never really was able to he struggled to keep girlfriends and to keep romantic interests. And then he met Mary Jane, who's like this drop dead gorgeous woman. He had Gwen, who was beautiful, but then Gwen died, right? And it's just the whole thing of him being sort of this, there's always the old saying of the Parker luck, that he always, if Peter Parker, if he didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have any at all. But it's kind of hard to buy into that when he can go home to this, drop dead supermodel wife who sticks by him no matter what, never mind that she could probably go out and find some billionaire who'd marry her, in a heartbeat, but she sticks with Peter, who's always broken, has all these problems because, she loves him so much and everything. And it's heartwarming, but kind of hard. Yeah, I always found it kind of hard to buy into. And again, it kind of runs counter to Peter's whole persona as being sort of this downtrodden underdog. It was always kind of an ill fit to me. So I'm not exactly opposed to him and Mary Jane being split up. Although I don't like the way they're doing it here. This crap is. I think the reason they're doing it and bringing in the husband and the kids in is so to provide a justification for them to continue being split up. I think what they're doing right now is they're trying to do this with the intent that it's permanent. This isn't something that will be undone in a few years. But it rubs me the wrong way because I don't think they're doing it because it would be more true to Spider-Man or to Peter's persona as an underdog. They're doing it because they don't want to portray a happy, loving, well-adjusted Caucasian heterosexual couple. That's what this is. They don't want to show a white man and a white woman in a happy, successful relationship. That's why they're doing this. I think that's the real reason. And yes, I know the other guy's probably a Caucasian too, but he's not one of their main characters. And so nobody's going to care if Mary Jane and Paul have a happy marriage. Who's Paul? Who cares? So I think that's the real reasoning behind this, and that really kind of ticks me off. But it doesn't surprise me they're doing this. It's just sort of par for the course for Marvel. They're cutting off their own nose to spite their face. All right, so we're at 8:10. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to wrap this up here. So this is a interesting story. I noticed this is from Bounding into Comics because when I saw it, I was just like, oh, of course. Of course they're doing this. Okay, so Warner Brothers Discovery to celebrate 100th anniversary with short film series that, quote, reimagines the studio's iconic films through a diverse and inclusive lens, unquote. And I think you can probably guess what this is and where it's heading. The series will see six of the studio's classic offerings remade with, quote, representative casting, storytelling, and narrative, unquote, by a respective up and coming filmmaker, all of whom were specifically selected to participate by, quote, DEI industry veterans, including Warner Brothers Discovery's Senior Vice President of DEI in North America, Karen Horn, in collaboration with Warner Brothers Pictures executives, Visual Communications, Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival, Urban World, Sundance Indigenous Lab, Outfest, and Real Abilities Film Fest. The filmmakers, as well as the films they will be updating, include Robin Cloud, who will be doing Calamity Jane, Reagan Linton, Jack and the Beanstalk, B. Monet, A Star is Born, Monica Moore's Surriage, The Adventures of Robin Hood. Okay, Juan Pablo Arias Munoz, Rebel Without a Cause, and Taitseron's. What the fuck is this? Taitseron Ser Tai. What the? This guy, whoever he is, doing the Prince and the Pauper. These filmmakers will be mentored on the project by a number of the studio's veteran creatives, such as Arrowverse creator Greg Berlanti. Oh, great. Blue Beetle director Angel Manuel Soto, The Color Purple 2023 director Blitz Bazwali. So The Color Purple's getting a remake, of course, because they didn't have the right black people in the first one, right? Crazy Rich Asians director John M. Chu, Night Raiders director Dennis Goulet, and Crip Camp co-director James Lebrecht. Further, American Wrestler, The Wizard producer Ali Afshar will serve as a consulting producer throughout the entire project. We're absolutely thrilled to work with WBD's diversity, equity, and inclusion team to expand opportunities for a broader range of talent to realize their dreams at Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Picture Group co-chairs and CEOs Mike DeLuca and Pan Abdi said in a statement released alongside the announcement. We can't think of a better way to celebrate this studio's 100-year legacy than investing in the next generation of storytellers, and we look forward to seeing these iconic movies through their eyes. The impact of Warner Brothers films over the last century has been tremendous. They have shaped our culture and our understanding of the world around us, added WBD's chief DEI officer, Asif Sadiq. In celebration of the studio's 100th anniversary, we're thrilled to empower these talented filmmakers to create a modern and diverse reimagining of these iconic productions as both a tribute to the original work and as a mechanism to remind us of the power we have to tell stories and depict people in an inclusive and fulsome manner. At current, the short films are set to premiere on the company's newly renamed Max service sometimes later this year. That's right. So HBO Max is just Max now, apparently. So yeah, so basically they're going to do short films based on some of their classic movies that will basically replace the white people with black people. Now, if they were going to do something like this and do the casting in some way where the diversity would make sense, like they would say, do a remake of The Merchant of Venice and recast Iago as actually being, North African. That would make sense. But I mean, what you're going to do the Adventures of Robin Hood, but oh, you're going to do it with a bunch of people who aren't white. Okay, sure. Star is Born. I mean, okay, sure. There have been multiple versions of A Star is Born, and that can take place. It's not tied to any particular time. But the Adventures of Robin Hood is going to be, basically no one will be. Well, actually, the bad guys will be white. The Sheriff of Nottingham will be white. Everyone else will not be white. And this is probably just the beginning. You can bet that they'll be doing this sort of thing more and more as the years go along. And eventually, they're just going to do this for real. They're going to really remake these movies and just switch out all the white people to do new versions of them. Disheartening and disappointing, in my opinion. But hey, that's Hollywood for you these days. All right. Anyway, so we're at an hour and 15 minutes. Brian Hepburn says, "Yeah, good luck making any money with that." Yeah. Jeez. But anyway, like I said, I'm at an hour and 15 minutes here. So I want to thank the folks who tuned in for the live stream. And I want to thank the folks who will be watching this afterwards in the rewatch. And I hope you all have a good evening, and I will see you all next time. Good night.